Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Chris with Inside the U. Just wrapped up with the press conferences with head coach Mario Cristobal, offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson, and defensive coordinator Lance Guidry. I've got some thoughts that I'm going to share from those press conferences, my takeaways, kind of things that stood out to me. First off, I want to talk about the defense. I spent some time last video speaking about the offense and some things to note there. Defensively, I was really paying attention to what Coach Guidry had to say. A few notes. One thing I want to really start out with is safety Jaden Harris, who I expect to start alongside Michelle Powell there in the back. And he spoke about Jaden's confidence. And Jaden Harris, he got a couple spot starts last year, and players back then talked about his confidence. It's still a talking point. And I think it's something to certainly monitor in the game against the Gators. He'll be out there, expected to play a lot. And one thing that Coach Guidry mentioned, in addition to his confidence, felt like that Jaden really needs to get off to a fast start. And all players do, look. But I think it is especially, important for Jaden, for a guy that's trying to be confident, a guy that's stepping up into a larger role, huge game, obviously, a lot of attention on him to perform well. So pay attention to him in the first quarter in particular, those first couple drives, with how he performs, because to me, I think the biggest point of emphasis for the Hurricanes defense, and the biggest concern is how well they defend the pass in the secondary, with Jaden Harris and Powell there, but also at the cornerback spot. They did lose a lot there in the secondary from a year ago, and I think these guys stepping in have a lot to prove. So being able to defend the pass is certainly going to be a key point. Another thing with the secondary that, Coach Guidry mentioned was, yes, the defense is safety driven. However, the defense will also, just like with quarterback Cam Ward, the defense is also allowed to have headsets as well. And although, Mish Powell is that leader of the defense, and he is the one kind of instructing quite a bit, he won't be the one wearing the headset. And because of that, and I've heard Guidry speak about this previously, so to hear it again today wasn't a surprise, but the linebackers are actually going to be the ones that have the headset and not Powell. And the reason is because of the distance between the safety and the defensive line. It's just much easier for a linebacker to get a call and go kind of forward and back with how players are positioned on the field, rather than, for example, giving the play in to Powell and then have him make sure he gets the call into the defensive line, and you can understand why. So it's more of a, just kind of where guys are located on the field, and I would assume most teams are going to do it that way, and certainly it's important for the linebackers to get the calls out the proper way as well. And as far as those play calls, I do want to touch a little bit more on the defense, but the play calling, and the headsets was a talking point with offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson and Cristobal today, just about the adjustments and getting used to it, and everybody will just kind of wait and see. But they did speak about this, which I spoke about in the last video. They have been speaking about and practicing a contingency plan in case the audio does go out for whatever reason, whether it's hand signals like in the past, or even the wristbands like we've seen in the past as well. But they're just trying to be as well prepared as possible. So I just think that that's something worth noting, because again, it is a big change in college football this year. Just going back to the defensive line, and Coach Guidry mentioned it, which you can expect it, that they're not planning on doing the 3-3-5 stack, defense that we saw last year, as they made adjustments because of what was going on the defensive line in terms of player availability. He wants to be, he just believes in kind of having 4 down linemen. That's his kind of philosophical beliefs, and that's what this team is best suited to have. The defensive linemen, they've got defensive tackles they believe in, they've got edge rushers as well. And I think the thing to watch for is, yes, you expect a guy like Akeem Mesidor to be a guy that can play inside or out, because we've seen it. But I think they're going to be able to use different guys, whether it's inside or out, depending on different fronts that they want to go with, depending on how they want to attack the Gators offense, and I think that'll just be something to watch for. Maybe it is a 3rd down package that they go with, but I don't expect them just to run the same defensive tackles all game long and same the edge rushers and things like that. I just think that they do have the flexibility, and some players have kind of hinted at it a little bit in fall camp, that they've been able to do some of that, essentially playing up and down the line. So that is, to me, something to really watch for in the game. in addition to Jaden Harris being such a key point, as well as the rest of the secondary being able to defend the pass. And Graham Mertz, the Gators quarterback, has been a very efficient player there, but he's not been as known to throw the ball downfield as much. However, I think that could be something to really watch for in this game. Eugene Wilson is there. He's certainly a threat that they can move all over the place, and Gidry mentioned that. But I do know that the Miami defense is expecting Napier's team to really be run-oriented. So I think that'll be something to watch for, and maybe Napier will essentially assume that and kind of revert and kind of switch things up a little bit and really try to attack the Miami secondary through the passing game downfield. And then offensively with Coach Dawson, and I find this to be a fascinating storyline for the Hurricanes for this season, was he was asked about what he wants the offensive identity to be. Look, they've got a lot of different guys with good skill sets individually, and they're trying to piece it all together to put together a really productive offense. I'm curious how it's all going to play out and how it's going to look. For example, last year Miami averaged 33 pass attempts per game compared to 30 rush attempts by non-quarterbacks per game. So the splits were really, really close together, and Coach Dawson said he wants that to be the identity this year, not speaking in those numbers, but he wants it to be balanced. And with being balanced, he really wants the identity to be that they can have a formation, whatever formation it is, whatever personnel grouping it is, they want to be able to be successful either run or pass. And I find that to be so important, not just that you're being able to have a good balance, but the plays that you're showing, the formations you're showing, and the personnel groupings that you're putting out on the field are able to be successful both running and passing, because that's when you become a really dynamic offense, because the defense has no idea what's coming and they have to be able to be prepared for both because you're able to do both. So that'll be something to watch for. And the thing I think to watch for too that Coach Dawson mentioned, and it was something that he talked to Cam Ward about during the recruiting process, that essentially it's not going to be a one-man show. And I feel like Cam throughout his career has had to do that at the different stops he's been. For example, last year when I touched on Miami's pass attempts per game, Cam averaged 41 pass attempts per game, 50 touches a game, including his rush attempts. So certainly had the ball in his hand quite a bit and expected to make plays. So that's the part where I'm fascinated to see how much will those numbers come down? Will it stay the same? How will the run splits, the run game be implemented in? Because you have a guy like Damian Martinez who's been highly successful at the college level already, and other running backs that you feel confident in. So how much does that kind of vary? And how is Cam going to kind of react to that and essentially get the ball to his playmakers? And then just lastly, wrapping it up with Coach Cristobal, a note on the time management stuff that a lot of people were curious about on the last video. I'm definitely glad you dropped in the comments there. So he did talk about it. In last year, obviously it played out in the worst way possible in the Georgia Tech game, but there were issues throughout the season as well, some end of half stuff. So he did say that they do have a time management coach. He didn't want to say the name of this person, which I found to be interesting that he wouldn't be transparent about this, but he just said that, their job is to essentially kind of help out or help punctuate the issue and kind of just to be a reminder in a sense without using those exact words. But so we'll see how it plays out, see if they've learned some things from last year, and hopefully that they'll be able to have things under control, especially with this 2-minute timeout that they have now in college football. So that's going to wrap it up. Definitely drop in the comments below. I'll keep doing these throughout the week. Huge week, obviously. Miami playing Florida for the first time since 2019. I know many of you are excited. Season opener, so we'll see how it goes. But definitely thanks for watching, thanks for your support, and thanks for dropping in the comments below. I always like hearing what you guys have to say as well. Have a good rest of the day, and take care.